The beginning of the term psychopathology dates back to 1913, when there was a scientific discipline was first introduced by Karl Jasper. This new framework was made for the world to understand the mental experience of individuals, followed a long history of varied attempts at making meaning out of the abnormal experience of individuals. Psychopathology is the study of abnormal cognitions, behavior, and experiences. Descriptive psychopathology is the field of study involved in categorizing, defining, and understanding symptoms as relayed by people and observed through their behavior. Explanatory psychopathology looks to find reason for certain kinds of symptoms in line with existing. Psychopathology is a term which refers to either the study of mental illness or mental distress or manifestation of behaviors and experiences, which may be indicate of mental illness or psychological impairment. Therefore, psychopathology is all about exploring problems related to mental illness. It is about how to understand them better, how to classify them, how to help them, and how to fix them. As a result, how the topic of psychopathology extends from research to treatment and cover every step in between, the better we can understand how mental disorder develops, the easier it will be to find effective treatment for them. Lastly, patients with mental disorder are normally treated by psychiatrists or psychologists who both specialize in mental health and diagnose and treat patients through medication or psychotherapy.
The psychoanalysis and psychodynamic approach assumes that mental problem occurs due to underlying psychological conflict that is unconscious to the individual themselves. Sigmund Freud, he is the one who introduced this approach, and he believes in it. There are 4 different factors, which is id, ego, superego, and ego defenses. The second approach is the behaviorism approach. This approach suggested that behavior is what something we learn from the environment through social learning or classical conditioning and operant conditioning. Classical conditioning means unconditioned stimuli associated with neutral stimulus so that the neutral stimuli become conditioned stimuli and brings out conditioned response. While operant conditioning means behavior being taught through reinforcement for desired behavior and punishment for undesired behavior. The third approach is the cognitive approach. This approach was emerged in 1960s and 1970s, attempted on understanding the internal mental processes or cognitions. Cognitive approach assumes that psychopathology occurs due to distorted or lacking of cognitive thinking in a person. Major legacies of cognitive theory to psychopathology is the idea that people's subjective interpretation of events can have a direct impact on their behavior and emotion. The last approach is the biological approach. The biological approach is more to scientific theory towards psychopathology. This approach also suggested that psychopathology is caused by some faulty biological mechanisms within an individual.
Hi guys, I'm Kauslia Sivakumaran, and now I'm going to talk about the compare and contrast of approaches to psychopathology. Psychoanalysis and psychodynamic approach assumes that The conflict between unconscious and conscious psychological forces is the main cause that leads a person to be psychopath, and it is not related to physicals. Whereas biological approach assumes that psychopathology is totally related to physicals, where mental disorder, illness caused by three things: genetic inheritance, biochemistry, neuroanatomy, and viral infections. Behaviorists largely uninterested in psychodynamic approach and also cognitive approach to psychopathology. In behaviorism approach, they explained that human behavior including psychological disorder in the term of conditioning. In psychoanalysis approach has only minimal chance to cure the mental illness of a patient, but in biological approach, the mental illness surely can be cured with some biological therapies. Biological therapy takes lesser time to cure a patient, but psychoanalysis therapy takes almost 10 years. Biological approach are based on science, but other approaches are not. In behaviorism approach, there are two concepts which are classical and operant conditioning, whereas in cognitive approach, there are four concepts which are cognitive structure, content, process, and product. All these four approaches contributed their theories to this modern world, and many scientists and researchers are using this theory to understand more about psychopaths. All these four approaches have treatments to mental abnormalities. In conclusion, psychopathology is the study of abnormal cognition, behavior, and experience. To overcome mental disorder, an individual should surround themselves with good people. People with strong family and social connection are generally healthier than people who are in lack of support network. Individuals also should learn how to deal with stress. They also should get help when they are in need. That's all from us. Thank you.